Hey, founders. We got a great question the other day about whether industry comparables or competitor information impacts your valuation. Now, there's a number of reasons this is a great question, not the least of which is, hey, look, if you're selling your house, a comparable might be, kind of anything else in your neighborhood because it's probably built by the same, architect or builder, and there might be, different carpets and flooring and whatever else. But that's a comparable, right? I mean, it's relevant to know what price per square foot that's selling for. In your business, some of the same things apply, but in a different way than you might think about. So if they've transacted, meaning one of your competitors has sold, then the multiple paid for them, all of the things constant, meaning, the cost of debt hasn't changed very much, or the industry dynamics haven't changed very much, or the relative strength or weakness of the public and private markets haven't changed too much. So kind of all other things constant within a range, the multiple that your competitor sells for, no matter how unique and differentiated your products feel to you, is relevant. That's probably roughly what you're going to sell for, plus or minus, maybe not even one turn of EBITDA. So if they sold for 7 times their EBITDA, unless they're growing a lot faster than you're not going to sell for 6 times. You're probably going to sell for close to 7 times. On the other hand, unless you're growing a whole lot faster than them, where you have some secret sauce, you're not going to sell for 8 times. You might get 7.5 times, right? So valuation on comparables, especially what we would call precedent transactions, the more recent they are, the more relevant they are. Then a few of the other things that might impact things are, look, all of the things constant, are your margins better than your competitor? Are your customers stickier than your competitors? Do you have a more diversified business than your competitor? All those things will be positive. If, on the other hand, you have a really, really high concentration of your revenue or your profits through one customer or a couple of customers, and your competitors or comparables are much more diversified businesses, then yours will be valued at a lower number. There might be some buyers that won't even make a bid on it because they'll view that as a risk factor. So, concentrations are going to hurt. Diversification is going to help. The other thing is that, look, if you're talking about 2 different software companies, the one that has the lowest delta between the annual recurring revenue and the net recurring revenue, the difference being the churn, the lost customers per year, the one with the higher NRR will sell for more money, even if ARR is slightly higher for one of the businesses versus the other, right? Because that means that more of the customers are hanging around, the revenue is easier to count on, and that means the transferable economics are much more likely to apply. So think about your valuation and your positioning when you go to sell along those lines. Look, if there are industry reports where you and one of your competitors get shown, we've seen consulting reports on some of our client transactions where, the top 15 or 20 companies in an industry, either because a lot of them are public or because the information is out there among the consulting world, they're actually shown side by side and ranked. Look, if that's true and you rank highly, that's going to be a wonderful thing in your confidential information memorandum, your pitch book to investors. But for the most part, that's not going to be there. So for the most part, you're going to be looking at what you know about your competitors, what you know about precedent transactions, and how you think you rank. You don't want to make bold assertions you can't back up. On the other hand, if you beat XYZ competitor 4 out of 5 times, that should definitely be in your pitch book, in your materials. That is definitely relevant information. So this is imprecise, but don't fall into the trap of believing that your baby is more beautiful than other babies just because it's your baby. Look at the objective data, then take a look at your baby and say, well, it is my baby, and all of the things constant, I got 3 or 4 things that make mine better. Plus, it's mine, so it's better. That's just fine. That's just fine. Pride flows into legacy. And that shows up in transactions too. It may not account for a quarter or even a half turn of EBITDA, but if you're confident about your business, if you believe your business is great, if you believe there's a lot of growth ahead of your business, that will show up in your materials and your buyer will feel that. So hope that's helpful. More to come. Thanks.